No, sir. Okay, great. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the January 12th, 2026 regular city commission meeting starting at 6 o'clock. We will go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have one announcement, that being the Bering County Treasurer office hours. Ben, you talking to this one?
Shelley Wake, the Bering County Treasurer, will be traveling to local municipalities to talk about the tax foreclosure process. She'll be here in City Hall for three appointments. The first one is this Thursday from 2 to 4. Then she'll be here in February on February 19th from 2 to 4. And in March, on March 6th from 2 to 4. If you are in the tax foreclosure process or you think you may be, please feel free to stop by. There's no appointments necessary. It's first come, first serve. We also have in the back on the table, we have Shelley's flyer with a full list of dates and municipalities where she's going. You don't have to be a city resident to talk to her here or in any others. If you work closer to the other ones, please feel free to stop by and talk to her.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's it for announcements. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second it.
All right, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich.
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni.
Yes.
All right, next is public comment. This is for items on the consent agenda or items not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, stating your name and address.
Joey Andrews, State Representative, 38th House District. Here because it's the beginning of a new year. So we're starting to make our rounds to our city and township meetings within the district. So stopping in today to sort of give a quick look back on last year, but kind of a primer for this year. Obviously this year the new road funding starts, so we're pretty excited about the benefits we bring to the city. Y'all should be seeing a pretty significant increase in the roads budget thanks to the funding in this last year's budget. So, I think that's a welcome boost. Probably not the full amount that we need to really address everything, but certainly puts us in a better place than we have been for the last several years, and is going to at least keep us from from hitting the fiscal cliff that we were at risk of running into had we not. So, good news on that front, and hopeful that we'll be able to keep boosting those road funding numbers. I know Emily and I have talked about this a little bit, but worth paying attention in the roads budget because we now have ongoing project money for rail projects as well as transit projects, which I think are going to be really relevant and hopefully really relevant for us locally. This year's budget cycle starts basically now. So, one of the main things we're really stressing with everybody is if there are potential funding needs, local projects that could use some state assistance, get those to us early. We have a new process for those budget grants that began last year and is now legislature-wide. So all of those requests need to be in before, I believe it's the end of April is the deadline that we've established. And need to be, fully supported with documentation and everything. So earlier the better, so that if we need extra things, we can do follow-ups. It's a departure from the way things have been, where we've been able to kind of take those requests up until the last minute. So just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that change, so that if there are needs, we can get those requests in and advocate for them as possible. I just want to note that our office is working on a couple of, working on a lot of legislation, but a couple of smaller relevant things. We're hoping to get through this year, a modification to the brownfield tax credit, which has been a very successful credit statewide. We've got a bill in to try to expand that credit for acquisition and redevelopment projects, which I think in our area would be a huge boost given the number of projects we hear from local developers that have a funding gap, and it's often around the acquisition, or it's a redevelopment project that isn't currently qualifying under the existing laws. So we've made that part of our push in the kind of economic development relook that's going on this year. We're also trying to get the historic preservation tax credit expanded, which again, for our whole district, but especially locally, is a big deal. We have a lot of old historic buildings that could use a new lease on life, and it's pretty expensive to maintain those buildings and keep them in their kind of historic character. So that credit is totally maxed out right now. It's very popular across the state. So we're hoping to expand that so that more people can get a bite at the apple with those projects. Plenty of other things that we're working on that I'm happy to talk with you guys all about individually as you have questions about it. But those are the big things. And I think we can expect, economic development is going to be one of the big topics this year in the legislature, as well as I think looking at taxes broadly. There's a, affordability problem is at the top of everybody's mind in this state. And so looking at taking a look at our tax code, I think is something that we're all going to do. No promises, obviously. Legislative process being what it is and divided government being what it is. But I expect that there'll be a rollout of an affordability package in the House in the next few months that I hope everybody will pay attention to as we're trying to figure out how to address that ongoing crisis, but in housing, childcare, healthcare, kind of all of those spaces. So that's pretty much what I've got for you right now. Technically there's no questions in public comment, but if you have any.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. We appreciate hearing from you.
Absolutely. Good to see you guys, and congratulations to Commissioner Vetney. This is my first meeting with you on the chair, so just wanted to,
Thank you.
you bet.
Appreciate it. Other public comment? All right, seeing none, we will move along to the consent agenda. Items include meeting minutes of December 8, 2025, vehicle outfitting, Aetna resolution, special event application, Lori's Place Run, Walk, Rock, new board appointments, and invoice and tax disbursements. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I have a modification to the minutes. I asked if staff could have education about insurance, how to use it cost effectively, conscious care, when to go where.
And you're saying that's
Just-
not reflected in the minutes?
It's not reflected. It
Okay,
just
needs to be added.
Mhm.
Anything else?
That's
That was
it.
it? Okay.
I move,
So- I'm sorry, so then would it make sense to pull the minutes off of the consent agenda or just to approve them with modification?
Where would that modification be? What section of the agenda was that missing from?
It's where we approve the health
That's
insurance
it.
changes.
Section 17, the insurance. Forgot the name of the insurance.
If there's specific language you want to add as part of the requested amendment to the minutes, we could do it today, or staff could revise it and bring it back for approval at the next meeting.
I would be happy with education to staff about cost-conscious care, teaching appropriate use of healthcare services, when and where and how. Or anything like that.
Okay,
Okay.
it's up to you
So we
guys if
can-
you want to
We can
approve
approve
that
it
way.
with that
Sure.
modification.
Mhm.
Okay.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the modifications suggested by Commissioner Vetney.
I second it.
All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. All right, on to old business. We have the downtown parking program update. Is that you?
That is Kelly.
All right, come on up.
So let me just get myself situated here. Give me 1 second, Kelly. Friends at home can see it. See if we can get our friends in the room to see it.
Okay, so just for reference, the parking subgroup has been meeting on and off for, gosh, the last few months, every couple weeks, just to keep the ball rolling a little bit, investigate kind of what worked, what didn't work. So I want to give a quick update tonight just on kind of some of the happenings with that. Next slide, please. So just a, refresher on the purpose of paid parking. It was brought to light in the 2020 Vision Master Plan, which we all know had, over 2,000 touch points of public engagement. The parking's an issue in downtown St. Joe. As the downtown parking program was developed, our main identifiers for why to do this were, increasing that turnover in the downtown area. Alleviate the congestion by the beach goers. We know people going to the beach park in some of that prime property, which inhibits people from shopping or having parking for shopping in front of the stores. And also to invest in the downtown area with any potential revenue. If you remember, there was an 80-20 split on any potential revenue from the program. So 80% of any revenues past paying off infrastructure costs would be reinvested in the downtown area for things, anything from sidewalks to benches to facades, whatever, the DDA and the collective groups wanted to put that money towards. So next slide, please. A recap of the original 2025 plan. On-street parking west of Main and off-street west of Main and city-owned lots was paid. We did originally enforce 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The original timeframe was May 15th to September 15th. There were waivers offered for those that had that did not have downtown residents that did not have designated parking spots. They were allowed to park in the lots, as well as those that had financial and physical limitations. We offered waivers if they came and signed up. There was free parking on Main Street and everything east of Main, so all the lots, all the streets over here, and outside the downtown district. The initial cost, and this has been an interesting topic, there have been all sorts of different numbers thrown around, so we pulled the actual numbers. It was $364,678. We've seen much larger numbers, and just wanted to get the actual number out of what the total investment was. So after feedback, lots of feedback, we made some modifications. The enforcement time went from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and it went to Memorial Day to Labor Day. So we shortened it by 2 weeks on the front end and the back end. Also, any city resident that wanted a waiver was allowed to come in and get that waiver. We would get their plate in the system. Ultimately, due to ADA issues, especially in the lots, the program was paused. I want to say it was June 9th, I believe was the date. So, we just put the pause on it then, and then I don't remember the official date when we paused it for the rest of the year, but it went on pause. So moving forward, City Manager Heckworth and I met. We reached out to all the downtown businesses and we met one-on-one. We wanted to kind of do what we called the listening tour, get feedback from them. There was 4 or 5 questions that we asked. Ultimately, we ended up meeting with 53 of the business owners, and I think I can speak for Emily. It was enlightening just to make that connection and have that kind of honest conversation with them. One of the questions we asked was, do you understand the goals of the parking program? For the most part, people said yes. Like, they got why we did it. They may not have liked it, but they liked why we did it. And then on one of the other ones, the financial impact, were you up, down, no change? And you can see a couple were up, no impact was 11, and down was 15. Some of the other ones just didn't give feedback. So whether it was the service industry or just, we're not going to strong arm into answering. So that's that. This was an interesting question. We asked them, what do you see as the main challenges in the downtown area? Just blanket, no lead in. Parking congestion was overwhelmingly number one. Other things we can't really do anything about is, stores aren't open at certain time. How do we drive visitors down? We can have an effect on that. Getting more locals downtown, you can see that. But I think the main point of the slide is definitely parking congestion was a big one. So And then we asked, what did you like and what did you not like about the program? You can see, I don't know that anybody's surprised by these, impacted customers or clients, perceived negatively, frustrations with the kiosks or the app, and unhappy employees. Other things, people felt it affected the charm. This side of town was super congested because the employees were parking over here this season, difficulty for seniors. All things that we're taking into consideration as we move forward and look at possibly modifying the plan. The likes, the employees were parking over here, so it opened up more space on the west side. People thought overall, some people thought it was good for the downtown, and they really like those 30-minute spots. So I know those come in handy. There's more foot traffic, the kiosks. And then the 3-hour parking up from the 2-hour parking that it originally was, were all likes. So now moving forward, we've spent a lot of time going through this data, getting it to the subgroup and just kind of saying like, what if parking comes back, what can we do to make it better? So what they did, the DDA expanded. We ultimately got 3 new members on the DDA because there was one resignation. So both the DDA and the parking subgroup, we brought in more businesses, business owners, or representatives that are in the west side. So I know that was one of the concerns. There wasn't a lot of representation from west side actual business owners. We now have a strong presence in both of those groups. And one of the cool things that the subgroup did was, and I can get it to anybody who wants it, they did a full vision statement. Like, what are we doing? And, foster a vibrant year-round downtown district by improving access to local businesses, especially during peak season, because that's when parking is the biggest issue. So, they've really kind of held on to that vision statement as they're moving forward. I'm not going to get into any specific details because we don't know yet. We don't know 100%, but if parking comes back, it will be vastly different. We're looking at possibly just on-street parking in the highest demand areas. There'll be free parking on both sides of Main Street, and there will be some paid parking east of Main Street. So we're going to kind of even things out. Again, I say we're doing, this is, potentially what's going to happen. So just kind of evening things out. It's very scaled back. One of the biggest things that I'm frankly excited about, we're going to do some community open houses. We're going to do 2 for business owners and 2 for residents. We don't have specific dates yet, but they will be happening pretty quickly. So just kind of get the plan out, what we're thinking, get feedback. If there's something people absolutely, despise, can we tweak it? But we really want to be transparent and get as much feedback as we can moving forward. Is that it? Oh, is that it? Okay. So again, just kind of a high level. Here's what we're thinking. I'll answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you for the update. Any questions from the commissioners? There's no action step on this item, so she's just kind of updating us, but if you want to ask questions, feel free.
Did you give us a projected timing as to when you think something will come back to the commission?
For approval, I would anticipate possibly late February. Possibly.
After the open houses.
After
have
the
been
open houses,
completed.
yeah. We're
Okay.
looking at open houses early February, give me a chance to get things back to subgroup, and then we'd like to bring it back. I would say good chance at the second February meeting.
How will you be communicating the date and time of the open houses?
We'll use our socials. For the businesses, I'll definitely do the Downtown Dispatch, which is my network of the email that I send out to all the downtown businesses.
We'll make sure that Kayla
Yeah.
also communicates with the press.
Yeah.
So we'll get the word out that way through WSJM and the Herald Palladium and all of that.
Thank
We
you.
want to be as broad as possible. Mhm. Other questions?
I think that residential piece is really important, and I'm glad that I'm glad we're bringing it up. Depending on how we're gathering information as people come, I think that might be a good opportunity to find some of those residents who are really invested in that process. And I'm not asking for the parking subgroup to expand again, because I know it already has, but I think it would be useful to have even like a small group that we're just keeping a touch point with in that capacity, making sure they are definitely city residents.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for that update.
Great, thank you guys.
All right, next item is the Harbor Shores Brownfield Plan.
My, schedule. I want to open up public comments for 2 minutes to reopen it.
Because we aren't taking action on that item, we don't have public comment on it, but you're welcome to email any and all of us. There's actually a form in the back too. You can fill that out and submit it as well. Thank you. Okay, Harbor Shores Brownfield Plan. Come on up.
Well, good evening, everyone. I think I know everyone here, but just again, to refresh everyone, I'm Dan Fetty. I'm the Community Development Director for Berrien County, and I'm also the Administrator of the Berrien County Brownfield Authority. Tonight, we have in front of you a new brownfield plan, which is an expansion of the existing Harbor Shores project. You'll recall sometime last summer, I think it was maybe June or July of last summer, Chris Cook and I were here talking about the possibility of a new development component of the Harbor Shores project that would be on what we call parcel 1 and 2. This is the spot next to where like Lafarge dock is. Okay. Paddler's Park is where we're talking about. That property has been part of the Harbor Shores Brownfield Plan since 2005 when it was first adopted by the county. Nothing has happened on there intervening 21 years, but now there's an opportunity for a new project that is more expansive of what was originally proposed. So in July, we were before you, and the commission by motion directed the mayor to issue a letter to Berrien County and the Berrien County Brownfield Authority requesting that we partially terminate the existing plan as to those parcels and then consider adopting an entirely new plan on those parcels to support this new development. We have drafted that new plan. The Berrien County Brownfield Authority last month reviewed it and recommended its approval to the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners will hold a public hearing this Thursday at 8:35 in the morning at the Commissioners' Chambers over at 701 Main Street, after which they will have on the consent calendar a resolution to formally adopt this new plan and to terminate the old plan as to those parcels. The adoption of a brownfield plan by a county is not formal until it's concurred with by the local community in which it occurs. So tonight, we're before you to explain the elements of this new plan and then to ask that you also pass a resolution concurring with the adoption of the plan. Okay? Emily, do we have the presentation available that I sent?
We sure can. Yes. My apologies.
Well, I'll
Dan.
just keep talking in the meantime.
You can filibuster like a champ.
So to begin with, I know that the commissioners are familiar with how brownfield tax increment financing works and how it's used to support housing redevelopment now. There's been some recent changes to the act that have expanded the use of brownfield financing to include housing programs. This is beyond what was traditionally considered to be eligible for a brownfield plan. I won't belabor the details of that because I know that you're relatively well informed. You're working on your own projects that are going to utilize this financing tool. But for the members of the public, it is a little bit confusing to call a housing development a brownfield project because it would imply that we're talking about highly contaminated property or the remediation of contamination. That unfortunately is just a term of art that's contained in the statute now. Oh, here we go.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Tell me when to stop.
Well, let me kind of there you go. Just start there and we can show the parcels that we're talking about we call them parcels 1 and 2. That's just a designation that's been in place for a number of years now, but we're really talking about 5 separate parcels. The parcel that's on top of Whitwam Drive, the one below Whitwam Drive that includes also an area where a new marina will be constructed. For the people who have been around for a long time, you'll remember this used to be what we called East Basin, which was used by the employees of the former Whirlpool factory on that site. There's also a parcel that's on the west side of Upton that is currently used for parking for Whirlpool, but that'll be incorporated as a future phase of this project. And then there's the Paddler Park parcel, which is where the old water tower used to be. And then the public right-of-way parcel that'll be enhanced and improved as a new marina is put in. Okay. Next slide. This is a rendering of what the projected development is intended to look like when completed. Brand new marina, multiple units of housing that we'll go through, and I'll explain what these units are. Swimming pool, pickleball courts, which as a tennis player annoys me, but I get it. and a variety of different public amenities, including a hotel and a number of restaurants that'll be associated with that. So this is what I was getting to beforehand. Previously, under the Brownfield Financing Act, only eligible property could be included in a brownfield plan. That property had to either be subject to environmental regulations because of contamination, had to be functionally obsolete, blighted, or owned or controlled by a land bank authority. In 2003, the law was amended to include what we call housing property. That is a property on which one unit of housing is to be developed. That's now considered to be eligible to be included in the brownfield plan. Joey, it would be great if we could just change it to be the Redevelopment Act instead of the Brownfield Redevelopment Act, because it creates a lot of confusion, but yeah. So, but in any event, so now we can include housing property in a brownfield plan and then utilize the financing abilities of that act to help offset or defray some of the costs associated with the property. Those costs, which used to be generally limited to environmental response, you'll see, environmental assessments, due care, in some cases, some infrastructure and qualified government units. Now we can use brownfield tax increment revenues to reimburse both public and private infrastructure that's shown as necessary to support the housing development, site preparation, and as well as things that we call a housing financing gap or a loss rent subsidy to income qualified households residing within the property. And I'll explain what that is because it's kind of critical to what we're doing here. These projects have to align with the documented housing need as well as require or receive approval from MSHDA in order to capture school taxes, which we intend to apply for. I won't go through this in detail, but we have multiple studies that have been conducted throughout Berrien County over the last 3 or 4 years showing what the housing need is in this area. And it's pretty shocking if you believe the numbers, which the methodology these studies seems pretty solid. There is an estimation of about 23,000 housing units that would need to be constructed within Berrien County just to meet current housing demand. A lot of that apparently is being driven by second home ownership and short-term rentals, which is an issue that's not relevant to this discussion, but we are in desperate need of new housing stock in this county. The one that is really kind of concerning is that this missing middle housing stock that would be for households earning between, say, 50 and 100,000 a year. We have a shortage of about 2,900 units countywide just for households at that income level. That obviously is an issue because it's restricting our ability to recruit young professionals into the area, young employees into the area. It would also it's creating housing difficulties for retirees as well who may be income restrained. Okay. Next one. There we go. Okay. So this project is designed to address those housing needs directly. It includes the construction of townhomes, 127 townhome units, averaging between 1,100 and 1,800 square feet. Although, Chris, I think we were talking earlier, some of those townhomes might be closer to 2,400 square feet. Courtyard homes of 27 units of those of about 1,650 square feet. We're going to have a number of loft condominiums that'll be constructed, roughly 20 units, averaging 1,200 square feet. Apartments, 24 rental apartments that'll all be within one unit, and then 38 units of villas that'll be next to the hotel development. Additionally, to address this missing middle component, 20 of the townhomes will be restricted for rent to families earning at or below 120% of the area median income for the next 10 years. That is a necessary component in order to make the project legally eligible for tax increment financing. You have to show that a portion of the project is going to directly benefit income restricted households or this missing middle that we talk about. In this case, that works out to about 10% of the total housing units will be restricted for 10 years for families at that income level. These are just some renderings of what the final housing stock will likely look at. I think that the developer, the builder is Mosaic out of Grand Rapids, and they're still, I don't take this as gospel, but this is essentially the modeling that they're looking at for both the townhomes, the lofts, the villas, the apartments, and the courtyards. Okay. So now that we've kind of explained what the project will look like, what I like to do with these presentations is go through and explain the eligibility, why it is that this can be in a brownfield plan. And then we do have to go through what we call these Section 13 requirements. You have to, as a board, make findings of fact that the property satisfies the requirements of the statute and meets a public purpose. So we're going to go through these very quickly because it's necessary to do so. So the property is eligible for inclusion in this plan because it meets the definition of housing property. That is a property on which at least one unit of housing will be constructed. In this case, it's 216 units that will be constructed, 20 of which will be reserved for income qualified households. I've shown you the site already. This is a requirement under the statute that we have to have a description of the site. You can see the parcels right there and the tax ID numbers. You notice that they're now 1176 again. That's your tax ID number. They used to be 1154 up until January 1st of this year. They were actually in the city of Benton Harbor because of the old 425 agreement. One of the reasons that we're here in January and not November of last year is because we had to wait for that agreement to expire so that you had jurisdiction over these parcels again. This is a rendering of the site plan that has been approved by the city's planning commission and the city commission itself. The kind of highlighted portion is phase 1, which is actually what you've approved, but we also show what are going to be the second phases of this project, both in the parcel on the north side of Whitmont and the parcel on the west side of Upton. Below that, you also see the proposed installation of the marina that, if everything goes as planned, the construction of that is going to begin this year, correct? This is a summary of the eligible activities, and this is the meat of the plan, right? I mean, what are we talking about in terms of number and dollar value? The developer is going to undertake almost $24.5 million of new infrastructure that has to be installed in this site. That would be curb, gutter, road, sewer, water, storm sewer, lighting, electrical, gas, everything that has to go in to build a development, as well as some of the private infrastructure components like parking lots and other parking systems to support the commercial buildings around that. Site preparation is about 9.1 million. There is a lot of material that needs to be brought onto the site in order to make it buildable. I think we were talking close to 50,000 yards of material that needs to be put on the site to elevate it and to stabilize it to make it buildable. The housing financing gap of 1.8 million, I will explain what that is in a second, but that is the subsidy that will be eligible for the income restricted households that we're talking about. And then we have some incidental costs like the preparation of the work plan and the implementation of the brownfield plan that the developer is going to have to pay for and will be reimbursed. The interest calculation of 19.8 million, that is 5% simple interest accruing on an annual basis, and that's the statutory limit established by both the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act as well as the regulations of MSHDA. So the total amount of eligible activity, the total amount of activities eligible to be reimbursed with tax increment revenues is $55,400,000. I won't go through this in great detail, but I put it in there in case you want to see how we come up with these rent subsidies. Basically, we're talking about townhomes that are one-bedroom homes. That is considered to be livable for a household of 1 or 2. We look at HUD income limits for households in this area at 100% area median income for 1 or 2 persons per household. Multiply that by 30% because the expectation is that a household will spend about 1/3 of their annual income on housing costs. When we do that, what we find out is that a family that could reside in a 1-bedroom house can spend about $1,600 a month in rent. That would represent basically 1/3 of their monthly income. That becomes the fixed or the control or the project rents that we have to use. The developer has to basically rent at that level, less utilities. But you see, if you look down at the highlighted portion where it shows that the control rent is highlighted at $2,195, that is the actual highest level median rent that you see in Berrien County for a 1-bedroom house. It seems extraordinary, but that's how high it is right now to try to rent a 1-bedroom house. So if you think about it, if they got to rent this thing at $1,400 to $1,600 for a unit that would generally go for almost $2,200 on the open market, they're losing a substantial amount every month. That becomes the hole that's filled with tax increment revenues. Okay, so in this situation, you do the math, the rent loss per unit per year times 20 units times 10 years, it comes out to $1.8 million in total rent loss that the developer will suffer. And that's what they're eligible to receive in tax increment reimbursement over a 10-year period. That is a fixed amount, okay? So if they somehow are able to recoup that loss faster, say year 5, 6, 7 of the plan, they don't get more than 1.8 million. but they still have to commit to maintaining those income restricted units for 10 years. So even if they recoup faster than 10 years, they still have to hold those properties available for that period of time. And that's possible when you look at the variety of different households that may rent these units. Okay. We like to give an estimation of the total value that's going to be captured in the tax increment revenues that'll be used to reimburse the project. This is calculated over a 25-year span. It includes the SET, local school operating of 18 mills, the county's millages, general and special, the city's millages, general and special, RISA, and LMC. All told, 24 mills of school tax and 28.5 mills local tax, calculated out over what we consider to be approximately $95 million of new taxable value, and we wind up with a maximum available tax increment revenue over 25 years, about $67 million. Now, remember, they're only going to be eligible for 55 of that, so it's likely that this project, the debt on this project will be retired faster than the 25-year rate, but we put it in there just in case, just so there's some cushion. But it's very, our projections would estimate that it's probably going to be paid off in about 22 years rather than 25. The method by which this plan is being financed, no costs to this plan are coming from the public. This is all privately funded. The developer bears the risk of investment. They bear the risk of generating taxable revenue. If that comes to fruition, this is essentially an agreement that the local units will defer that new tax revenue and allow it to be used to reimburse project costs until such time as those are retired. Then the new tax revenue comes back onto the books of all the governments. There's no public indebtedness, bonded indebtedness, or note indebtedness. No one's being asked to borrow money publicly to finance this project. The beginning of the capture is probably going to be tax year 2028, is what we think. If the plan is approved and if MSHDA is expeditious in getting their approvals done, I think the intention is to start moving earth as soon as possible this spring. Start doing some of the infrastructure work, construction, vertical construction in late 2026, early 2027, which means we won't see the new value come out of the roll until 2028. And as I said, we're estimating a duration of 25 years, but it's likely to be faster than that. Other material that may be relevant to your decision, as I indicated, the proposed use of the property is consistent with St. Joe's master plan. The city and the City Planning Commission have already approved phase 1 of this plan, and the Berrien County Redevelopment Brownfield Authority has unanimously passed a resolution recommending the approval of the plan, both by the city and the county board. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
My question is more to you, Tim. We were told by Dan that, the developer is going to bear the cost of all the infrastructure for the project. I know we've just recently redone Upton Drive. I'm assuming that was all done in preparation for a project of this size, and there's no problem with the connection overwhelming what's already in place down there?
No, there is not. The lift station there, that was built out to handle, this kind of development. There's a lift station on next to it that pumps to that water lift station that we can pump.
But the sizing and capacity that was put in when we redid all that was mindful of the likelihood that this project was, or some project in the future was going to happen.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Other questions?
No.
No? I think you did a good job explaining it. Thank you for helping us digest such a technical thing.
I appreciate the time and I thank you for your consideration. This is, we started working on this plan in 2004. So it's been 22 years it's taken to get it to this stage. So it's exciting to see it finally coming to fruition.
Great, we'll move forward with the first part here. I move to adopt the resolution concurring the adoption of the Harbor Shores Brownfield Plan as presented.
Support.
All right, any public comment on the matter? All right, come on up to the podium.
My name is Lee Losey. I'm a citizen and a resident of St. Joe City. I was at the last city commission meeting. And I guess really my question tonight is, when do they plan on breaking ground? when I was at the meeting last month, it started out, it was going to take 3 years to complete the project. By the time we left the meeting, it was down to a year. And then they weren't going to break ground until, they were going to break ground a year after that meeting, a year from that meeting, which was in October. And then I read in Pat Moody's paper that it would be breaking ground in the spring, which is like only 6 months. So I just kind of wondered if I missed a meeting or something and some information that I didn't get. And then I'm hearing that it's, it's not going to be making money until 2028, whatever. So now we're going back to the 3 years again. And then I'm seeing dates that are further out. So is that saying that it's going to take them that long to build it? These are some kind of foggy numbers I haven't been able to gauge on. So if we can get that a little clearer, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Is that something you can answer?
Commissioners, I think there may be some confusion about the projects that we're talking about.
Well, this is in St. Joe,
This-
up here in the city.
Yeah, we're talking about the project on the north side of the river. And
Okay.
The dates are groundbreaking should occur this year. Infrastructure work will continue throughout the year. Vertical construction, that is, the houses are gonna start probably in 2027. And the construction schedule is gonna go out through 2036. It's gonna take that long to build it. You may be thinking about the Marquette projects that's been proposed downtown, because I think that has a different construction schedule.
Okay. Thanks so much for clearing that up.
Thank you. Other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we got a motion, we got a second. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next item is ordinance amendment, chapter 13, International Fire Code, second reading. Is that you, Lori?
It is.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You're good.
Okay. At the last meeting, the city commission approved the first reading of the ordinance, which would amend chapter 13, article 2 of the Code of Ordinances, and that's adoption of the International Fire Code. And this would be adopting the 2021 version of the International Fire Code, excluding certain appendixes, and that would be E, F, G, H, J, L, and M. There was quite a discussion at the last meeting talking about why those were excluded. They're either not applicable to many things in the city or they're covered by other laws and regulations. I don't know if there are any other questions you have. I can answer some of them. I can't answer technical questions, but there's been no change from the last meeting. If you are still in agreement with that, I'd request a second reading.
And we approved this unanimously last time. Any additional questions from the last meeting?
No questions.
I move to approve the second reading of the ordinance to amend chapter 13, article 2, section 13-16, adoption of International Fire Code of the City of St. Joseph Code of Ordinance as presented.
Support.
Any public comment on the issue? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is board reappointment policy.
That one's me. So this is revisiting an agenda item from April of 2024. At that time, the City Commission had a fairly robust conversation. You can see the minutes from that meeting in the packet about making changes to the existing board and commission appointment policy, which was last updated in 2013. The goal was to encourage more participation from the public, ensure that there was feedback on our existing board members, appreciation of our existing board members, and I think more communication generally with the public and our board members. And so it has taken a bit of time, but we've got a proposal here that tries to ensure that we are checking all of those boxes. And so what this does is currently when there is an incumbent whose term is ending on any of our commissions, boards, or committees, if they reapply, there's no interview process, there's no communication with the public. They are, almost always simply reappointed. And so the idea behind this policy in order to create more engagement is anytime there is a term ending, there will be communication to the public as well as to the existing board members to say there is a term ending. All are welcome to apply, certainly including existing board members. If there are multiple applicants, the subgroup would then come together to determine if they want to hold interviews and go through that process. So that's really the goal. It gives some responsibilities to the clerk for notification to the public and to all of the incumbents, and then to the appointment subgroup to work through those interviews together. That's it at a high level. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The only thing I'll add is, as one of the, commissioners that's on the subcommittee, I mean, this really just applies the process we were taking whenever we got a new application and just applying it to all of our boards. Many of our appointments, can potentially have been prior to any of us being on the commission. And so we thought at the time in 2024, when we discussed this, that it would be prudent to give ourselves the ability to, run them through the same great process that we have, where we have a couple of us commissioners interview, with participation from, typically the board chair or a designee, and members of city staff. So it's really been a great, board and a process that we're looking to just formalize, for now and in the future. I will also add that, in the last, 3 years, previously I did these with Commissioner Binkley and now I do them with Commissioner Ulrey. And there is, whenever we have an opening, there is no shortage of talented individuals within our city. I've had a great time getting to meet a lot of different people for a lot of different boards that we've had the ability to, appoint over the last couple of years. So this is exciting stuff.
I definitely want to echo that. We have so many engaged residents, both on our boards, actively participating already, and interested in joining our boards. We have been so lucky.
And I'll just add, since I was on the committee 4 years ago, we didn't have this problem, and trying to find people to fill these positions was kind of like pulling teeth, and we kind of took whoever was willing. So this is a symptom of a good problem to have, that now we can
For sure.
have more than what we need and have options to choose from and pick the right candidates.
Since I'm new, I don't know, you probably already know this answer, but I have a question. So if somebody wants to reapply that's already on the committee, will they have preference during the interview process?
So currently they essentially do have preference, because if they want to reapply, they do fill out an application form, but then they are sort of automatically reappointed. So what would happen in this process is that the first thing I think we would look at is whether the other applicants are in fact qualified, just based on a review of the applications, knowing that we have very qualified folks already on our committees.
Mm-hmm.
If there are qualified candidates that come in, then yes, we would probably want to consider both. But I do think that, preference might not be the right word. I think that we would look to staff and other committee members, like a board chair or something like that, to say, oh, that person's really strong. They participate, they bring a lot to the table. We would have that level of insight that we wouldn't have necessarily about someone who is coming in fresh. So we would certainly have more information to go from.
And I have another question, which is there a standard to evaluate each candidate? Do you have a standard questions that you ask everybody across the board?
I don't want to speak for the subgroup. It varies based on each board, commission, committee. But the subgroup generally asks the same questions to each candidate. So we just recently, as we appointed today, did the River Harbor Authority. Those questions, of course, are very different than we would ask for, the ZBA. But they do ensure sort of best practice. We do the same thing in interviewing staff, that everyone gets the exact same questions.
That's it.
That's it.
That's okay. The other thing I would say, just as the other commissioner that's serving on the subcommittee. What's really nice about offering everyone this opportunity to kind of, interview, I guess, for lack of a better word, is we've even been able to connect with those applicants, and there might be a better fit within the city for them that they didn't even know existed. And so it's been a really interesting way to, people who want to serve, when we guarantee that we give everybody this opportunity, we're able to kind of find the best fit for them on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's not been uncommon that we have, somebody express interest in multiple boards. They just want to help. And so we've interviewed them, and their application is, kind of, we'll do whatever you want us, to do wherever we can. So we've had a lot of flexibility to have good conversations and put people into different boards. So, and any recommendation that the subcommittee makes ultimately comes before the full body of the five of us. So.
Yes, thank you.
Other questions?
I know there was a question that came up the last time we had this conversation just about, kind of commissioner capacity. So just to address that, to make sure that, that's out there on the table. These are typically, and so people know as well, when they want to join one of these exciting boards, they're typically just half-hour Zoom interviews. So it's easy for those citizens to navigate, but for us as well.
Abby is very good at being flexible and finding times that work for everybody involved. So.
Very good.
I move to approve the resolution to amend the recruitment and selection procedures for city boards, commissions, and committees as presented.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla?
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrey?
Yes.
Commissioner Ventney?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, item number 16, MOU agreement with LECO for storm sewer easement and license Anchor's Way.
I will start, and if you have technical questions or project questions, Tim can jump in and fill that in. This is a longstanding project down at Anchor's Way, and it's a high water mitigation project, which is to address flooding that has historically impacted that area during high water events. The city is in the process of obtaining a complete design and bid package for storm sewer utilities and the road design of Anchor's Way. And that's expected to be done sometime this summer. Part of what has to be addressed is, where that will all be located. Right now, they're looking at a portion of the project crossing the Pier 33 property, which is located at 250 Anchor's Way, and it's owned by LECO Corporation. The city has an existing easement for other utilities there, but we would need to also add the sewer utilities there, the storm sewer, at the same general location. So we would need an expanded easement for that area, or a new easement, really. LECO's consent to this is really critical to the project, and not just to the design, but to finalize it. In coordination with that, LECO would like to install a dredge disposal line that goes from that property to another property they own, and they would have to cross the city right-of-way, which is Anchor's Way. So we've been in quite a bit of discussion with LECO, their council, to work through some of those details. And we have a proposed memorandum of understanding with terms of the license agreement with LECO, and then the easement agreement. There are a couple of portions that we're still waiting to fill in, and that's just a rough sketch and legal description of the easement. We know the generalities, but we need to plug that in to the final documents, and then a depiction of the dredge line schematics. Again, we have kind of a general framework for that. So we would request that you approve this, subject to final review and approval by both the city engineer and myself, for those documents to be included, and any non-substantive changes that might be needed as well, and authorize the appropriate city staff to execute those final documents. And this will help us continue on the project. I know Tim is getting anxious with some of the schedules and financing components of it as well.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Tim. Representative Andrews talked earlier about additional funding from the state, and that the deadline for those requests is the end of April. Can we get our package far enough along to be part of it, to submit a request for that particular road? Yes.
I have estimates for the construction, which steadily grown, it's become more complex, but
For
yes,
sure.
I would say that we have numbers that we could submit, for grant funds for it.
Great.
Yay.
I have no additional questions.
Okay.
so.
Nothing else? All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding between Lico Corporation and the City of St. Joseph, including the storm sewer easement agreement and license agreement to occupy city right-of-way, subject to the Assistant City Manager / City Engineer and City Attorney's final approval of the rough sketch and legal description of the easement, depiction of the dredge line schematics, and non-substantive changes, and to authorize the appropriate city staff to execute the final documents.
Second it.
Any public comment on that matter? All right, may I be called the roll?
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. Thank you. All right, we have a public hearing, the first of two tonight. We are on the Parks and Recreation 5-year master plan.
Commissioners?
Is that, do I need to open this public hearing starting at 6:57 PM? Please.
Just going to give a quick overview. This is our 5-year update of our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This is a requirement of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in order to obtain grant funding. Our current plan expired in 2025, and so this plan will cover 2026 through 2030. The purpose is really to set kind of an overall vision for our parks, so it's not prescriptive down to the detail of what exactly we are and aren't going to do, but its purpose is to go out in the community every 5 years, kind of gauge what is important to our residents and the people who spend their time here, and then form kind of a general plan around how we can better meet those needs. To give a little bit of perspective, we had a survey that went out both in paper copies and digitally mid-August through mid-September. We put it up on our socials. We promoted it through local media channels. We also had an in-person meeting in early September that allowed people who maybe for one reason or another couldn't access the survey to come and make sure that their voices were heard. After the survey closed, I spent about 2 weeks digging through the data, looking for trends, kind of categorizing different needs that were expressed. I also took a walkthrough of each of our 16 parks with the survey feedback to take a look and see kind of what people were talking about and take some pictures and make sure that we had everything well documented. As a reminder, we had internal staff do a lot more of the plan this year. Previously, we had worked a lot with contractors to create the plan. And so this is something that I think we're really proud to come together with some significant cost savings for the city. So after we kind of did our analysis, we drafted the plan. In late November, we released it for public comment. The plan was available online and in person at both City Hall and the library. That public comment closed at 5 p.m. on Friday. You'll see there that after we released the document for public comment, we had a few additional edits from our Parks Board, mostly just some small corrections of information to make sure that everything was watertight and reflective of current circumstances. Those edits, because they came in after the public comment edit or the public comment period, those edits are marked in blue for transparency. Next steps, we have a public hearing so that we can hear any in-person responses to our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and then we will ask for a resolution of support for the plan. The plan is due to the DNR by February 1st.
Great. Is that everything? Thank you. We don't have any other presentation. Okay, so any questions from the commission for Kayla or staff? Anybody?
I have a comment. So when I was reading it, the comments from the residents, there's a group that wants lots of pickleball courts all together. And as I was reviewing the city map and looking for other alternatives, did you ever think about the Shoreham Downs Park? Because it has has tennis courts there now. it has this, replace the soccer field with the pickleball courts.
Not super familiar with that park. Is that?
It's a tiny park off of Red Arrow. It's in Shoreham.
That's
Yes.
not our park. Just outside the city.
Yes, but we also cited other parks that weren't in our,
Like partnering with other
Yes, yes,
municipalities
yeah.
instead of relying solely on our resources. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
good to consider.
Other questions?
I think one key thing that I want to just re-highlight that Kayla mentioned is, these are, just a periodic refreshing of a plan. And, sometimes out of these, we end up seeing either the same or something very similar, but things can change and become even better. We've certainly had some projects like that. I know, there's already been some interest in, different elements of our master plan and, interest in, hey, well, we have this idea to make it even better. So these are not necessarily this is what will happen, but it certainly gives us a roadmap, and it's exciting to get everybody's ideas all in one place. So thank you for doing it.
Okay. And speaking of some of those ideas, I know that there was some updates, and correct me if I'm wrong, some updates to this about the skating at Kiwanis, correct? Or just how that was gonna how that process is gonna move forward?
There have been some conversations about that process. I don't know how they fold back into the master plan, so I'm going to turn to Kayla and Greg for that. Is Greg still here?
Yep.
Yes, I see him.
Thank you. I know people are just excited about it, so I want to make sure I have the right
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, regarding the master plan, we have, we've received a lot of comments in the survey from people who are interested in updates to the skate park. So those comments are reflected in the plan. The plan doesn't lay out though necessarily like a budget or what exactly we plan to do with the skate park so much as just kind of take notice and make sure that it's documented that we have interest in improving it.
And I can tell you just on a more granular level, we had money in the budget to replace the skate park. The funding that has been budgeted is more limited, would allow us to get a more limited skate park than we have currently. And there's a lot of community interest in doing some fundraising and doing something bigger. And so we did decide at the end of 2025 not to move forward with a purchase and explore this bigger idea. So Greg is sort of leading things on that with a group of interested folks. So it sounds like that is represented, sort of the desire in the plan. Hope that's helpful.
I just have another comment. It's no secret that I'm very excited about connecting our trails, walking trails and stuff. So I was very delighted to see that in the plan.
Excellent. Other questions before we take public comment? Okay. Do we have any public comment on this master plan? All right, seeing none, we don't need an applicant response because we have no further questions. So we'll close the public hearing at 7:04 PM. And now we have a decision to make. Any other questions, comments from commissioners before making a motion?
No. I would like to make a motion to approve the 2026 to 2030 Parks and Recreation Master Plan as presented.
And you probably, although we might not have written it, you might want to consider also adopting the resolution as presented.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep, it needs
Apologies.
to be a resolution.
All right, I move to adopt the 2026 to 2030 Parks and Master Plan Recreation Master Plan and resolution to adopt it as presented.
Motion.
Is that adequate?
Did you
Yes.
close the public hearing appropriately?
She did.
It was closed. I think, I don't know the park rules or the state rules for that. I think if you could have a motion.
We need a motion to close the
hearing.
public hearing officially, so can we
Yeah.
get someone to motion that? Just so we have our ducks in a row.
I move to close the public hearing.
I second it.
All right, Abby, call the roll. Nice and smooth.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes,
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
okay. Set on that. Now we have the motion from Michael. Is that sufficient? Are you going to repeat it?
to redo it?
Redo
yes,
it.
please.
I move to approve the 2026 to 2030 Parks and Recreation Master Plan and the resolution to adopt it.
I second it.
All right. Abby, call the roll. Third time's a charm.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Strolla.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Kayla. And I see some Parks Board members in the audience as well. Thank you, everyone, for all your work on this project. I know it's no small feat, so thank you for volunteering your time to put this together and work hard on it.
And thanks to Greg, who worked closely with Kayla on it. I can kick off the next item for the zoning ordinance amendment for temporary seasonal structures by introducing Brad Coderbaugh. He is our new interim zoning administrator with us from Williams and Works. He is fabulous. He's available to us at all times, but is here in person 1 day a week. We've been thrilled to have him on board, and he's going to take us through, I believe, the next 3 agenda items.
2, I believe.
Okay, great.
3 if you really need me to.
Okay, sounds good.
So the first agenda item that I will be addressing is the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment for section 3.15, which is a temporary use and structures ordinance amendment. It was presented by Mr. Jay Patel, who is the owner of Lake House Restaurant and Bar. In the beginning of November, Mr. Patel approached city staff requesting a zoning ordinance text amendment, specifically because he wanted to address the installation during seasonal times for temporary structures, tents in general. He wanted to erect those larger event tents that you see often. You'll see like wedding receptions and things like that held in them. They're approximately about 3,000 square feet inside at a maximum. And what he did was sat down, discussed with city staff at that time. They kind of hashed back and forth what they would like to accomplish with this proposed zoning ordinance text amendment. And one of the requirements for a zoning ordinance text amendment request is that the applicant does have to supply some draft proposed language for that text amendment before city staff can review it. Mr. Patel did provide in my review, if you follow through with it, he did provide a text amendment to the existing zoning ordinance, which really only addresses 2 types of temporary structures, really construction or contracted trailers at a maximum of 300 square feet, and then anything involved at churches or schools. Outside of that, we do not permit those temporary structures to exist. So he proposed adding in a section basically that provided a seasonal tent or structure to be erected on the property for at least 180 days within a year or 365-day period, and that it must clearly be, its intent must be clearly seasonal and directly related to that principal use or that particular business in general. He did propose to do this specifically for the commercial district only. Staff, after discussion, and they decided that they felt that there was a few more regulations that should be added on top of Mr. Patel's proposed language. It was reviewed at the Planning Commission meeting in December. Mr. Patel did agree that he felt that it was reasonable. Specifically, what staff intended to add was that temporary structures and uses must be associated, obviously, with the use found on that particular property. It cannot be located for more than 180 days or no more than 180 days in a 365-day year. The maximum size is the 3,000 square feet. It has to be at least, or at most 14 feet tall, and then it needs to comply with basically all those required building setbacks from that district. It does have to meet all the parking requirements for that district as well, and that there can only be 1 tent on that property, so you cannot have multiple tents. The Planning Commission overall agreed with these staff recommended changes. However, there was further discussion at that public hearing, which was provided on December 4th, specifically related to his business, meaning food and drink service. They wanted staff to re-amend the language that they proposed to expand further upon those parking requirements in part 7 of that draft language, which would specifically speak to food and drink establishments and the parking requirements necessary. Now, the city zoning ordinance actually does require additional parking for any outdoor seating area, and that is 1 additional parking space for every 250 square feet. I believe an outdoor space, so 3,000 square feet. On the fly maths, that's like 12 spaces maximum. When city staff and when I came aboard and city staff and I discussed this further, we really took this into consideration, the fact that this ordinance not only is amending food and drink establishments, but it's amending all establishments within the C commercial district. So applying specific parking requirements specifically for one type of land use across the entire district wouldn't be very advisable to do. So what we did tonight was we offered an amendment to that language that the Planning Commission did recommend to you. And those adjustments are to item number 2 and to item number 7. Excuse me. Item number 2 specifically addresses the fact that there was a little confusion between the 180-day period, or at most 180 days within the 365-day period. Basically, what we selected or chose to present to you all is an amendment proposing no more than 180 days. Just leave it simple. And then the second is that they just continue to respect the requirements that are outlined in the off-street parking ordinance for item number 7. That way it addresses all different types of land uses in the commercial district and not specifically food and beverage services. So that is really what we are proposing to do this evening for this particular text amendment. I'm available if you have any more specific questions for me. It doesn't look like the applicant is here to speak towards this any further. And I believe the city attorney can also answer any questions if you have any.
So I have a question. I actually attended a wedding reception in a tent at this facility pre-COVID. Did we not have this ordinance in place then, or?
It was not an approved use. It was not allowed. And there were some enforcement steps taken. I think when COVID, at one time, and I'm relying a little bit on my memory, which is always a little dangerous, but originally they used to put it up for a weekend and take it down. It would be up for an event and it would come down at some point in time. And I don't know, I think it was tied in more closely with COVID. It remained up the whole summer and it became an enforcement issue with city staff. So there were steps and letters sent to notify the owner at that time that it was not a permissible use under the zoning ordinance, and they had the options to amend an ordinance, change or request that, or to take it down. They ended up selling the property, and it has been down for a little while now since the new owner, Mr. Patel, has taken ownership of the property. That has not been up. So although it was there previously, it was not a permitted use.
Here's where I'm struggling with this a little bit. I think in this particular instance, the tent there makes a lot of sense. When it was there, it looked good. It's a venue that supports this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is if we do this through an ordinance, everyone in the C district can do it. And if they can leave it up for 180 days straight, now all of a sudden we become a tent city. So is there a way that we can address this on more of a single one-off basis without being discriminatory? Is there a language we can put in where it comes before the commission or somebody for review? And maybe I would be certainly more inclined to support something that is more temporary as far as up and down for an event, not just to sit there for 2 weeks unused as a tent. How would we accomplish that?
You really need to have some standards set forth in an ordinance that applies to everyone. And sometimes those standards can be a little bit discretionary, but there needs to be some guidelines. I think when this was initially looked at by staff, part of the goal was to not have a greater impact and have unintended consequences. The planning commission did discuss whether 6 months, and it's not a straight 6 months, it's at block of time, basically 6 months in total. Whether that was too long and whether that was an appropriate amount of time. So there are certainly time limits that could be a little bit different. Limiting it to the commercial district, still having all the other zoning requirements applied to it, like setbacks, lot coverage and things like that, will also limit a lot of impact. But I can't tell you, there may not be some unintended consequence that.
And full disclosure, getting this packet on a Friday afternoon and then, going through everything, it's in at 380 pages. I haven't really had a chance to apply this to every C district property. So because of that, I mean, I'd like to think about this further. I still think it's a good use for that particular property. It makes sense for me, but I haven't applied it across all the unintended consequences there might be. So at this point, I wouldn't be comfortable moving forward with a yes, but I'm also not comfortable just patently saying no. I think I need some more time to think about it. That's my opinion.
If you need more information, I think we can certainly get more information together on where the commercial properties are in the city, and that will give somewhat of a visual. Again, I think it's probably a lot more limited than what it sounds like.
Right, could be.
But without that additional information, I can understand where it's difficult to make that evaluation. The planning commission, I think, had some more of that backup information at the time they were reviewing this.
We could certainly table this to pull that information together.
I want to add to your discussion. I like the tent there. I think it's a good use, but it is in the front yard of a business. And Sandbar has a tent as well. How do you feel about that one? Which is in the back.
Yeah, was it up all year? I think it went up and down by event. And I think that's something I would be in favor of even tonight across all the C district. I think just leaving it up continuously for 180 days or 180 days aggregately in a year, where it could be 3 months at a time. Again, I'm just not sure all the properties it would impact. I'd have to see the body of all the potential C district properties and then kind of make that decision. If there's a way to address this on more of an event basis, I'd be a lot more comfortable with that. But I'm not opposed to looking at it in its current content after I see all the potential properties that would be impacted.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is, concern is mostly with the long-term nature, but if we had like agreed, like having a wedding there, it's a great spot for a tent and stuff. If we, had more of a, staff approval for like temporary stuff, I would be very open to like a policy like that to give staff, or ourselves, preferably staff, honestly, the ability to approve, one-off things like that, in the future to be able to hopefully capture some requests like this rather than having to amend, also I appreciate the work to, finagle these ordinances because you know how complicated they are and how much they weave together, so all the more reason to, simplify them. But yeah, I'm in no rush to say yes to this right now.
Yeah, and I think for me immediately, the 180 days, that is a long time. So especially when we consider the reality of the seasons in Michigan and how these buildings will be operated, 180 days in some ways feels like we're approving, another building there.
And after hearing the previous owner didn't take it down when they were supposed to, that makes me nervous. Because what if somebody puts it up for 180 days, then ignores notices to remove it? Then it's around for how long?
Yeah, from an enforcement standpoint, part of the difficulty was during COVID, the courts were closed and we, we're kind of giving people grace.
Right.
Too. But as far as enforcement's concerned, if somebody is in violation of an ordinance, we typically, the city's policy has been to notify them and try to gain compliance. If that doesn't happen, then we're in court and we do request the judge order, then to take it down to abate that. And we've had success with that in different situations. That's not our first immediate reaction. We try to resolve it in hopefully in a more amenable way, but we we will go ahead and go to court to enforce it if necessary. So.
Yeah, I think on a specific too, we talked about the size, 3,000 square feet. That would be 12 additional parking places for a singular event, an inconvenience of one night kind of thing. I think that works. When you start looking at 3,000 square feet, 12 parking places for 180 days, everybody knows that 12 parking places is insufficient for the amount of people that are going to be in that tent. So I think there's some inherent problems with that, the way it's written, particularly if it's for a long period of time, the 180 days. So, I mean, I just want to go on record because I want the applicant to know that I like the idea of a tent there. I'm in support of that. I just think it needs to be looked at from a different angle, and I hope they bring back an alternate resolution for us to look at. And in the meantime, if we could see what all those C district properties are, just so we have that information in advance, that would be helpful.
I'm happy to table it as well. Just another question that I had. So did I hear you right that items 2 and 7 were changes made by staff after the planning commission had taken a look at it?
Correct.
And so do they have input on those 2 changes, or do they know about those 2 changes?
We did not present those particular changes to that. It was a reconsideration of one of the changes in part 7 of that, with particular stress on that food and beverage service parking. We tried to interpret exactly what their meaning was with that, and with doing more research on what we already had, we felt that it was maybe addressing particularly that particular land use and those additional parking requirements there. And what we felt was, because this is a zoning district-wide ordinance in effect, that it wouldn't really be very reasonable to apply those specific standards ordinance or, district-wide if another business is not doing a food and beverage service. And that they should also, if they have to meet those additional requirements, they should also have to meet those additional requirements.
Yeah, I'd almost want the planning commission's opinion. Is it something that we could put in front of them before this comes back to us? Or I don't know what the timing is.
It is something they discussed already. If it was something they had not discussed, we would not procedurally be able to bring that to your attention. Or if you just came up with something different that hadn't been discussed, it would need to be redirected to the planning commission. I think it was more of a clarification of the discussion there. The number 2 was really just duplicative language that was confusing. So it was trying to limit that. And the parking regulations applying only as we were attending the meeting and listening to the video, and Brad wasn't actually at that meeting. I was there, and it was still a little bit difficult to understand what it was, but I think they were a little bit tied into the particular industry that the applicant was applying for, but it's the whole commercial district that would be impacted. So we could certainly send things back to them if the thought is 180 days is too long, it will be appropriate for that. Again, that was what the applicant requested, and it was more in line with what had happened at that particular property for a period of time. The applicant's position was that it takes a lot of time, effort, money to take the tent up and down, so it was more efficient for the owner to have that up all year, or I shouldn't say all year, but seasonally. It was a seasonal request. And I think there've been other similar in Harbor Shores as an event tent, which also, it's a little bit more robust maybe of a structure, so.
Right.
But yeah, we can certainly bring back more information. If you feel like the planning commission needs to reconsider different things, it could be sent back to them.
Yeah, I'm just really concerned about the unintended consequences. I mean, for those 2 venues, Harbor Shores and Lake House, I think it's a perfect use of that. But if we amend the ordinance and it's now open to anyone in the C district, it could be problematic. That's my concern. I would move that we table it, and for further review, at minimum being a presentation of all of the C district properties. Just so we can know what we're potentially opening ourselves up to.
Could we explore a separate policy altogether for like special events / wedding venue tents to have, rather than amending, the commercial district, zoning ordinances, I'm just thinking here, something specific, like, that's really what brought us to consider changing this
Right.
ordinance is because somebody wants to put a tent for weddings and other events, you know, in there. So why not have a specific, you know, if you want to put a tent in some place where you cannot currently put a tent, you know, type of thing, a simple policy to have staff review it and then
The land use itself really is something that falls under a zoning ordinance, so it's certainly something we could defer back, have, if the commission wants to refer that back to the planning commission for further study, and it could be tied into lot size, you know, other things that they didn't really get into discussion on, so.
Or specifically a restaurant or something with a food vendor, liquor, beverage license, that type of thing, and only address that.
I think we could look at some options based on the guidance you've given. Take some thoughts back to the planning commission, and then from there, once some work has been done, bring it back to this group.
Yeah, they're the experts on this stuff, so I love hearing their thoughts on it. I love reading the minutes. They always ask all the questions that, you know, maybe I wouldn't think of or I already had, and so it's really helpful when they kind of pick these things apart for us.
Okay.
All right, so we're tabling that.
Yeah, I think Mike made a motion. I did not hear a second or a vote.
I guess just for clarification, are you referring it back to the planning commission or are you tabling it to bring back to this body?
My motion was to table it and bring it back to this commission after we have a chance to review all the C properties. Subsequently, if we can make a second motion, I mean, I would support it if someone else wants to make it, that we do return this to the planning commission with the concerns announced here tonight, and maybe see if they want to bring back an amended version. At the same time, we have a more robust picture of what all the C district properties are.
I think that can be all one motion if that.
I hope somebody wrote it down.
We're recording.
I second that motion.
Okay. Any public comment on this matter? All right, may I be called the roll?
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, and I think you have another one. We've got item number 20. We have another public hearing. Land division variance request 2936, 2940, 2942 Niles Ave. We'll open the public hearing at 7:28. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Thomas and the commission. This one may appear to be a little complicated if you have gone through it and got confused. I tend to be rather pedantic on some things to make sure the detail is there, but sometimes it may go a little overboard. So essentially what the applicants, Daphne McClellan and Scott Cooley, have submitted for is they are attempting to dissolve an existing condominium development that they have at their property at 2936, 2940, and 2942 Niles Avenue. Presently, that is one lot. It's a traditional condominium. There's 3 units inside, basically interior of the building. As a condominium unit, all the requirements of common space is managed by the association itself. What they're trying to do is dissolve this condominium association and in effect establish subdivided lots or traditional city lots in this same piece of land. As such, they are required by state law to meet not only the state requirements under the Land Division Act, but also the zoning ordinance requirements. When this was brought to staff back in November, staff analyzed this and realized that this building's been in existence, this lot's been in existence for many, many, many years, probably predating the zoning ordinance, which effectively makes these buildings and structures what we classify as a lawful non-conforming, you know, basically building and structure. At that point, we do have to defer to the state laws for land division. The state requires that anything under 10 acres in area must meet a depth to width ratio of no greater than 4:1. So anything that's one wide cannot be more than 4 deep. If you looked through the review, most of these parcels are around 20 feet wide and much deeper than what the four maximum amount is. And what they would like to do here is the city commission has the authority to grant a variance over top of either a zoning request or this particular item. And you do have a standard that you do have to review. So as you're going through the public hearing, you will be asked to review that particular standard. And basically that standard is analyzing the detriment to surrounding property is basically what it comes down to. The first few paragraphs of my review do try to explain in detail what we are now classifying as an easement agreement between all property owners, because effectively what used to be a shared roof, for example, is now partially owned by different property owners, and therefore they need an agreement in place if something has to be repaired. What percentage of this is who the cost is going to go to a particular person. So that is particularly what the easement agreement is attempting to do. So I ran through this looking at the submission requirements for this particular application in section 823 of the city subdivision ordinance, and I did provide some remarks on this. It was officially and formally denied by staff in July of 25. And again, that purpose was it did not meet the 4-to-1 depth ratio that the state law requires. Therefore, that triggers the variance request. And essentially what I would also like to bring to your attention is just the fact that because this is a lawful non-conforming structure and the uses are established in there right now, essentially down the road in the future, any future landowner, any future tenant or user of the building, if it's a different type of land use, would have to comply with things like off-street parking requirements. It's difficult to do when you have a small amount of square footage and only 20 foot of property width. That only may cover 2 parking spaces, and you may have a requirement, depending on what that use may be, of 10. For example. So this district also requires a maximum lot coverage of 50%. These buildings do exceed those individual maximum lots that are outlined there. So I did want to bring those 2 items to your attention as well. Essentially, if the commission does choose to move forward with this and consider an approval of this, I do have a couple recommendations that I think you should consider on there to add as a condition to that. That being that the city attorney does review the easement agreement that the applicant's attorney is drafting out to make sure that it complies with everything that the city requires from the state and things like that. And also that any future dimensional requirements for zoning, so if they would try to like put an addition onto the building, effectively they're non-compliant right now. So it either limits them on steps on, at that point, or they have to come in for a variance request. And similarly for things with uses considering parking. So those are really the 3 conditions that I suggest if you choose to go that route. Are there any questions for me? The applicants are here. If that's something the commission does choose to consider.
Don't we have a variance board?
The ZBA is the zoning board of appeals. This is, it's unusual. It's an existing nonconformity. They're condoed now anyway. And basically it's a different legal type of structure for them, but it's not changing anything dimensionally from what's there. So it's a lawful nonconformity that could continue. Part of Brad's recommendations are that just acknowledging that that's allowing what is now there to continue, but it couldn't be changed, added to the nonconformity could not be increased. So the only thing with the land division that would need approval at this point is the 4-to-1 depth ratio difference. So it's an unusual request, and that's why Brad prepared a pretty in-depth memo on it.
Brad, what might we not be seeing here? What could be an unintended consequence of approving this? 'Cause
That's something brought to your attention as you should consider. It's really, it's a very, as you notice, it's a very general standard for you
Right.
to review. I would really look at this when I do any sort of comparison in any situation, any other community towards this is really, what are the land uses currently? Are there anything that's planned to be changed in the near future? If so, is traffic going to be increased? Things like that, noise, potentially fumes, things, those sorts of things. Essentially, I think this applicant is planning to use this exactly as they're using it right now. It's just an ownership form that's changing for this property. So really, I mean, and it's something you may want to discuss with the applicant. However, I feel that really the intensity of what it will be next week is going to be essentially what it is this week. And you have to look at it that way. However, yes, trying to forecast down the road what could happen. Those are the types of things that I always look for, is potential for land uses that would be noisy or increase a lot more traffic or have a lot more, customers showing up, things like that. However, you do have to also keep in mind that any potential land use, there has to be a permitted land use for that property, and those are typically taken into consideration at the time that the ordinance is drafted.
Yeah, those concerns you mentioned wouldn't be any different as the building sits today either, would they?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But what if they go to sell it in the future and there's new, what consequences could be for future owners of this property?
Well, the consequences for future owners, as I said, they will always have to meet the dimensional requirements for the zoning district, which right now is non-conforming. And also things like parking, depending on what type of land use they do there. So different land uses require different amounts of parking requirements. For example, so whatever's being used there today requires whatever they have there because it's in existence currently. However, if it changes next year, something comes in and does require 10 parking spaces, and they only have 2, they have to figure out where to get the remaining 8 parking spaces.
So it could make the property less desirable for a future purchaser.
could
And it could sit
potentially.
vacant for however,
Could potentially.
yeah.
Depending on what they want to do with
Right.
it, right? Yeah, so a number of scenarios that get triggered there, but I mean, as I'm understanding it, nothing about the way that it's being used today changes from what they want to do by executing this change and stuff, so I don't see immediate issues personally.
What are the benefits to doing this? I guess I'm not seeing like what the positives are.
Trying to juggle that myself. Yeah, that's something the applicants may want to fill you in on.
Okay.
It may, I mean, really the only thing I can consider is potentially trying to simplify maintenance and things like that, and just saying, I only have this much I have to deal with, and I don't want to have to worry about paying for your share. I'm not sure.
Right.
But
Is that something
really,
we
I
can
mean,
have
other
the,
than that, there's really no tax assessing changes to this at all. The use is identical to what it's going to be. So
Right.
spoke with the city assessor earlier, and he confirmed there is no change to that.
is that something we can have the applicant speak to, the benefits of this?
Clearing things up for each of the unit owners. We kind of went through and we've done some outside improvements to the condo association as a whole. And now we're just to the point where we feel just adding money back into the association every year is really not benefiting us, other than taking money away from what we want to be back.
Okay, so kind of just really clarifying boundaries and saying what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, and having it, that makes sense.
I don't
Thank you
want
for that. That's helpful.
I don't want to speak for anyone, but in talking to Brad about this, because I certainly had many questions for Brad about this.
To kind of go back to the people that were running the condo association, I don't think were really holding themselves to the bylaws of the association. So when we kind of took it all over, Daphne and I were kind of seeing a lot of question marks within the condo structure that we didn't really agree with. And it just didn't make sense to us from her standpoint and my standpoint, the condo association going forward. And just felt it'd be better. This is all.
Okay, thank you. Were you gonna add?
I was just going to say, in talking to Brad, it sounds like from a city perspective, it's relatively neutral. Brad, jump in if you disagree. But it is a box that has to be checked in their process of removing their condo structure. So it is meaningful to them and not especially meaningful in one way or the other for us, is my interpretation of it.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
won't really look at it differently than the way it was before.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. When I was first trying to wrap my brain around this, I had a lot of question marks, but you've clarified everything. So thank you. Other questions? Okay, well, we have done the presentation, the city comments, public comments on the matter. Anyone? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
I
We need a
move to-
motion.
Yeah, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley.
Yes.
Thank you. And now we need a motion on the actual land division variance request.
Makes
Get back to that.
sense. After the discussion, I move to conditionally approve the land division variance application for the properties addressed as 2936, 2940, 2942 Niles Avenue, St. Joseph, Michigan, with the following conditions. 1, the applicants submit a complete copy of an easement agreement which is reviewed and approved by the city attorney before the applicants record it at the Berrien County Register of Deeds. 2, all future dimensional expansions must comply with the minimum zoning ordinance requirements as outlined in the zoning ordinance of the city of St. Joseph. And 3, all future changes of land use must comply with the off-street parking minimums as outlined in the zoning ordinance, finding that the requirements and consideration for the standards in the subdivision ordinance outlined in Chapter 27, Section A-24 have been satisfactorily met based upon the factors set forth in Sections A-22 and A-23 of the subdivision ordinance, and finding that a variance from the lot 4:1 depth to width ratio meets the requirements of Sections A-25 of the subdivision ordinance.
Support.
Public comment on this matter. Okay. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for reading that long one for us.
I didn't even practice.
And our last new business,
Oh, yeah.
new business item, Downtown Development District liquor license, Katrina's Kitchen.
I'm back. So as you may recall, at the July meeting, the commission approved the development district that allows for Downtown Development Authority liquor licenses, which is a different opportunity for businesses to obtain on-premise liquor licenses with certain stipulations. Those stipulations include having at least $75,000 in expended for new construction or rehab or restoration of the building, or a commitment of $75,000 over 5 years. The licensed business must engage in activities related to dining, entertainment, or recreation, and the licensed business must be open to the general public and have a seating capacity of not less than 25 people. We've done a few of these before, and thank you for the late addition. This one came through the DDA this morning. Katrina's Kitchen wants to come in at 316 State. It's the old Beachside Deli. So it's something that's kind of been in the works for quite a while. I did present it to the DDA this morning. They did recommend approval to bring it to you. You have her application in the back. We did redact some information just for privacy's sake with, weird emails going out, but she does meet all the requirements. I've been in contact with her about since I started here, so it's exciting to see this coming to fruition finally. So I would ask for your approval. Do you have any questions?
No questions. I'm happy to see something opening up in that spot that's been closed for so many years. So,
Yes.
Great.
other questions?
No.
All right.
I think echoing that too. I mean, Beachside Deli has been closed
Long time.
long time. So I'm so happy that the DDA was able to find a good candidate to be in there. I think that would be great for the downtown.
Good. I move to approve the resolution approving Katrina's Kitchen request for a Class C liquor license in the DDA development area.
Support.
Public comment. All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we've got a report, summary of the 2026 property maintenance program, focus area 4B.
Right. Emily is coming up. Hopefully everyone has met Emily Oman. She's been with us for quite some time and took over for Joan in property maintenance when Joan retired. And I am filibustering while I attempt to pull this presentation up. Let's see if we can get it. Sorry. Here we go.
All right. So like Emily said, I am also Emily and I am the code enforcement officer for the city. And I'm here to talk about our property maintenance program. All right, so our program purpose and why it's necessary. One of the main goals is to prevent blight here in the city, preserve the property values, and most importantly, improve the overall health, safety, and quality of life for residents and visitors alike. Our goals and objectives for the program is to encourage a proactive property upkeep approach, address concerns, before blight can occur, and support residents in voluntary compliance. That way we don't have to pursue any further action. So how does it work? So the program is set up where the city is divided into 7 focus areas. In these focus areas, we have over 3,660 properties. The focus areas are divided based on their size and location, and what makes sense, with obviously the area down by like Upton, Mominy, and all of that being a separate area compared to right here in downtown. So it involves both the residential and commercial properties, so they are both equally inspected. All inspections take place from February through April. Every inspection takes place from the public right away. So whether that be the sidewalk, the alley, the street, I do never cross onto anyone's property unless I'm invited onto the property by the property owner, or if I need to post a notice on a door. So the point of the program, we examine the property, the exterior of the property, looking at stuff such as like peeling paint, broken windows, doors, fences, rubbish in the area, missing handrails, guardrails, and anything else that the International Property Maintenance Code considers a violation. So as I said, the International Property Maintenance Code is the basis for our property maintenance program. The city adopted the IPMC under Chapter 896. So our program timeline, starting in mid-January, I will mail out introduction letters to everyone inside the focus area, informing them that the program is going to be starting, and they might see my car and me driving around and poking around their property. That way no one is alarmed. And then I conduct those inspections from February through April. And then starting on May 1st, the residents will get, that have violations, will receive a letter notifying them of what needs to be corrected. And then there is a September 20th deadline. And from September 20th onwards, I will go out and do re-inspections. So this year is our 2026 focus area known as 4B. It was originally part of focus area, it was known as focus area 4, but was divided in 2025 into 4A and 4B due to the fact that there was over 1,100 properties, and that was a little impractical for just me. So right now, 4B has 589 properties, which is much, much more manageable for me. So does this program work? That's the question a lot of people want to know.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I cannot show you, obviously, since 2026 has not occurred yet. I can't give you an update on that. However, I can give you an update on 2025, and I can tell you how great of a success this program is. So Focus Area 4A had 519 properties and was previously inspected in 2018. So in 2025, we had a passing of 316 properties and a failure of 203, which for this being, that was my first focus area. So I was a little nervous, but compared to all the previous focus areas, it is very comparable. So we're on track. Like I said, after September 20th, I started my re-inspections. And from that original failure rate, we went down to only 48 failures. And from that, we have 16 that have partially completed, and they just need a little bit more time. I have granted an extension for all those failures into June of 2026. So after I get done with the 2026 focus, I will go back to 2025 and cross the passing ones off my list and send notices to the next, reminding them that they need to get this done. So here's just some pictures showing like how good the program does. I really wanted to show you full pictures of the homes, but I didn't want to violate any privacy or anyone's privacy for obvious reasons. So here's just some clips of like really nice differences. All right, and like I said, with code enforcement, we want to be very proactive and not reactive. Because to be proactive, not reactive, for an apparently insignificant issue ignored today can spawn tomorrow's catastrophe. We don't want a little bit of peeling paint to eventually result in rotting wood, which then results in the entire structure, coming down. All right, any questions?
Thank you. That was great. I felt like we needed a little music playing during the photos showing.
Seriously.
I do remember talking with Joan many years ago about this program. She said, you'd be surprised. Most people are very happy with the program because people say either wanted to, get some fire under me to do that project that I've been neglecting for so many years, or I've been wanting my neighbor to fix that problem that they have been neglecting. So she said very few people have been angry about it, but that sounds like
That's been my experience so far. And
Yeah.
I've even been very impressed where some houses, it's only a little like window that needed some peeling paint. And the property owner just repainted everything.
Mhm.
And it's been very I'm just very proud of the residents.
Great. Any other feedback, questions?
Nope.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Oh, you get some applause.
On there, 'cause that's why I repainted mine.
All right, that is it for our agenda. We're on to city manager comments.
Thank you. I want to say that regardless of ownership structure, Daphne pierces ears like a champ. She did my daughters and highly recommend. I also just wanted to, it's our first meeting of the new year. I also just wanted to share my appreciation for the folks who work the holidays and have worked some really late nights or early mornings. Steve and his team, working Christmas and New Year's. Greg Alimenti and his team working Christmas and New Year's. And is Greg Grouthouse still here? His team also, we had folks out plowing on New Year's Eve. What a way to ring in the year. He and his team have been all over it. So just want to share my appreciation for those folks who work so hard when the rest of us are trying really hard to not be working hard. Really appreciate them.
You're good. All right, city commission comments. Anybody?
Talk out.
Okay.
For the year.
I always like to talk about any upcoming events that we have. Just a reminder, we are on the 3-week cadence, so our next city commission meeting isn't until February 2nd. So in between that time, we have a couple of my favorite events coming up. On the 30th, we have the chili tour. It's free. I think you can pay $5 for a map, but otherwise all the restaurants, if you haven't been, it's great. It's really great chili. It's a great way to get a free meal and walk around town. The very next day is the Beer Fest, St. Joe, today's Winter Beer Fest. Probably the last time it will be the last time it's at the location that it's at now. So come on out, enjoy the fun, and that's it. So thank you. Let's see, we have one more item. You are welcome to stay and sit while we go into closed session, but we do need a motion to go into closed session.
I move to go into closed session with City Attorney Lori Schmidt and Attorney Michael Cluck for the purpose of consultation regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with pending litigation filed with the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, case number 251216-02001, for the reason that an open meeting would have a detrimental financial effect on the litigating or settlement position of the city pursuant to MCL 15.268E.
Second.
All right, any public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Strolla.
Yes.
My.
She had a cup to the door.
Okay, we're ready when you are.
I move to return to open session.
Support.
Public comment? Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Bentley, Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes.
Commissioner Ori.
Yes.
All right, that concludes our meeting at 8:35 PM. Yay.
There we go. Thanks, guys.